Just about all the voting judges have loaded up their materials. Absentee voting is over, and campaigns are winding down before Saturday's historic election.
I'm Ron Kirk. I'm running for mayor.
Hey, Ron, how you been?
The frontrunner for mayor is Ron Kirk. If he's elected, he would become the city's first minority mayor, the first black mayor in a major Texas city.
I knew I was going to have to be able to put together a coalition of blacks and whites and browns and Jews and Muslims and Asians, and I've done that.
The election includes 3 major candidates from each of the city's major ethnic groups. That in itself is historic. So is something else.
What we've seen in early voting, the minority locations we have in Dallas County have tended to vote sometimes up to 400% and 500% more than previous comparable elections.
For example, in Precinct 4411, that's 95% Hispanic, only 70 people voted absentee in 1991. Already 228 have voted this year. In Black Precinct 3318, there were 212 absentee votes 4 years ago. Now, 343. But in a white district such as 1140 on Marsh Lane at Midway, voting is down. 293 4 years ago, 236 this year.
I think it's a historic race, of course. Everyone probably is thinking something along that line.
Well, thank you much. Appreciate your help.
Historic for one more reason. Kirk is not ahead because of support in black districts alone, but because he has overwhelming support in white neighborhoods also, a crucial fact in a city where white voters usually make up about 70% of the vote.
Both of my opponents have resorted to mudslinging and negative campaigning instead of talking about what they want to do.
It's just not true. No one has done that in this campaign.
That is absolutely untrue.
How are you? Nice to see you.
According to the polls, Darrell Jordan is locked in a hot battle with Domingo García for a runoff spot against Ron Kirk. And when things get hot in politics, they sometimes get nasty. A group called Jobs for Dallas may have violated election law when it mailed out a reprint of a Dallas Morning News editorial critical of García. García blames Jordan. Jordan denies it.
My campaign did not send it out, nor did I know about it.
If you want, and somebody
At a senior citizens forum, Jordan is asked about a postcard mailed to Pleasant Grove voters saying Kirk is endorsed by County Commissioner John Wiley Price and former Councilwoman Diane Ragsdale. One of those who got the card doesn't like it.
I just feel tones of racism here. I'm sorry.
Is this race baiting?
I think it is.
No, not at all. He has talked about that at every forum we've been to. There's nothing inappropriate about that.
I don't believe the citizens of Dallas get anything when you start attacking and throwing mud, because whoever throws the mud ultimately gets dirty.
García tries to take the high road, but minutes later he falls in a muddy ditch. He accuses Jordan of hiring convicted drug dealers.
The only reason the issue came up was because he mentioned that he wanted tougher drug laws, was going to get tough on drug dealers, and yet his campaign hires drug dealers to work on his campaign staff. And I think that's hypocritical.
Ron Kirk, meanwhile, says he's never sent out literature critical of his opponents, and that's why he's the man to beat.
I am proud of the fact, at least, that I have kept my pledge to not engage in that sort of negative campaigning or attacks against either candidate, and I will not do so.
The only dirt flying in Fort Worth these days comes from city crews trying to fix badly neglected streets. The campaign for city council is clean and non-controversial.
We want somebody who's going to do something.
Political strategists say the battle for District 5 will be tough. Former council member Eugene McCray is trying to unseat incumbent McKinley Jackson. McCray says the city must build a partnership with businesses to create jobs.
Have a job training program from these CEOs from these companies and tell them what they have offered, leave application, then let a person fire for. Then they can get the $8 and the $9 and $10 an hour jobs. And this is what it's all about.
Bless us because
District 5 incumbent McKinley Jackson is a Baptist minister. He says his work with a coalition of ministers attracted the First Bank to the Stop 6 area, a first step in creating more jobs in an economically disadvantaged area.
We want supermarkets, all the business that it takes to make a plaza be what it should not be. That's what we purpose to do in Stop 6.
In District 5, incumbent Virginia Nell Weber seeks a 5th term on the council. She says her work has led to improved streets, better social services, crime watch programs, and increased minority representation.
Have made sure that we have diversity on our municipal courts, that we have diversity in all of our boards and commissions, and that District 8 has its fair share of the available resources.
I think it's time for a change.
Eunice Givens is one of 3 challengers for Weber's seat. She says she will be the voice of the people on economics and improved city services.
Substandard houses, absentee landlords not taking responsibility. I've seen trash and debris, overgrown areas, which should be taken care of.
Givens and other candidates will try to get out the vote Saturday so they can have their day. But the bumpiest part of this election may simply be driving to the polls. John Jones, Channel 8 News, Fort Worth.
Now, I do think Mayor Bartlett was right that this is not a mandate to Ron Kirk, but I think to the entire council to come together very quickly and go to work on those issues the voters care about.
We need to get everybody out to go vote tomorrow. It looks like it's going to rain, so we're going to need to get the voters out.
Domingo García checked the skies while pressing the flesh at a Cinco de Mayo celebration at Pike Park. He's worried that rain and thunderstorms will hold down voter turnout in Saturday's election. The music and dancing of a Friday night under the stars is a sharp contrast to the mud bath earlier in the day.
You got more people than we got candidates. That's a good sign.
According to the polls, Ron Kirk is the man to beat, and those scrambling to make it in a runoff with him are getting desperate. Darrell Jordan's supporters mailed out a postcard in Pleasant Grove saying Kirk is endorsed by John Wiley Price and Diane Ragsdale. He is, but some consider the mailing race baiting.
I just feel tones of racism here. I'm sorry.
No, it was no negative thing at all.
That card was sent out, unfortunately, to continue the same type of divisiveness that we've had in the city that we need to move away from.
I don't believe the citizens of Dallas get anything when you start attacking and throwing mud, because whoever throws the mud ultimately gets dirty.
Prophetic words, perhaps, because minutes later the crowd of senior citizens groaned audibly when Garcia accused Jordan of hiring convicted drug dealers for his campaign staff.
The only reason the issue came up was because he mentioned that he wanted tougher drugs laws, was going to get tough on drug dealers, and yet his campaign hires drug dealers to work on his campaign staff. And I think that's hypocritical.
Domingo, for a long time, had been leading us to believe that he was a former prosecutor. It turns out he was not. And I don't think that he's got any room to be calling my record into question. I'll put my record up against his any day of the week about truth and veracity.
A little hypocrisy practiced by everybody here?
A big hypocrisy factor by Mr. Garcia.
Ron Kirk, meanwhile, stayed above the mud pit.
I am proud of the fact, at least, that I have kept my pledge to not engage in that sort of negative campaigning or attacks against either candidate, and I will not do so.
Billy Jackley running for mayor here. Okay. Out here in the lion's den. I'm not scared of nothing.
Back at Pike Park, perennial candidate Billy Jack Ludwig shook hands with voters, predicting success, regardless of the mud.
I think I'm going to be in the runoff with Mr. Kirk.
Take your pick. The election's tomorrow. Doug Fox, Channel 8 News.